Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I build this application, door handle slider. I'm going to be using Next.js 13 and styled component to style the application. Next.js is a React framework. If you need to find out how to configure your styled component to work with Next.js 13, the documentation you can find it at Next.js website. If you simply go to Google and search Next.js, that's in Next.js 13 because I'm using 13 documentation. Select the first result here, and that'll bring you to Next.js website. You simply type tiled component. Just right here. So here's the tutorial on how to configure your style component to work with your Next.js. I'm not going to get into that, but you can look at that yourself. Some of the functionality for this slider will include the ability to click on the track to move the handle, and you can also click, hold, and drag the handle to change the minimum and the maximum values. You can also change the basic minimum and the maximum variable we have here, and the slider will still work as normal. For instance, we can decide to start the minimum from 50. That will simply start the minimum from 50 to 100, and the slider will still work as normal. From 100. You can also increase the or decrease the maximum. Let's say 180, and the slider will still work. Now, from 50 now to 180. Another functionality will include the fact that we don't want the maximum to go below the minimum. So when it gets to the minimum, it stops. And also the minimum cannot exceed the maximum. So gets to the maximum, it's gonna stop. It can go beyond the maximum. So that is the functionality that we're going to implement for this application. I'm going to get into it to show you how I build it. My code editor is going to be VS Code. I've already gone ahead to create a new Next.js application using my VS Code. Put it up here. Just a basic VS Code and Next.js application that display hello world on the browser. No other implementation has been done so far. So let's run this application and see. There you go, hello world. I'm going to show you my package.json file just so you can see my dependencies that I'm using for this application. I have here class names, which help me to organize my class names. And then I have style component, which I'll be using to style the application. So if you're going to be coding along with me, you may want to install these two dependencies. So they'll go a long way to help. Now let's get into it. The first thing we're going to be doing here, like this, the first thing we're going to do is create our style components. So we'll come over here and create a file called styles.js. Then we're going to import style from style components. We're going to build the styles that we need for this application. But style But const we're gonna need the input element. Uh, back. And of course, we're gonna need the container. All right. For now, this is all we need for now. We're gonna come back to this file and add more CSS. Whatever CSS we write between these two backticks is gonna be a regular CSS. For now, we just need the components to use for our logics. So we're going to create a file where we create all the logics now. We're going to call that file slider controller. So here, create a file, call it slider controller. For my VS Code, I have an extension that allows me to simply write a shortcode to generate a functional component. So by typing RAE, I generate a component for me. I'm going to be using the name export. So here I just simply write export. I'll give me export. Now I need to import all my style component I created in my styles.js. But I'm going to be importing it from my styles file. All right. Now we have our slider controller. We're going to be having some props. Children, classes. Cause the rest prop, we just rest. And then we're going to be returning container. And then our children will be passed in here. And then our class name. Now we're going to be using a class name we installed as our dependencies here. It's going to be imported up there. Class names from class names. So our class names, we add our classes here. I'll give it a container. And then classes will pass in here. And of course the rest prop. All right. The approach we're using for building this application will be compound component. So because we're using a compound component, we can simply just use the slider controller as a dot notation to access the input range and track. Right now we can build it by saying slider controller dot input, and that will be a function that takes some props. and return a GSS. That GSS is going to be of type input, self closing, and then take some prop as well, classes, rest. Then we're going to have a class name, poster, class names, classes. Oh, let's first of all give it a class name of input, classes. Of course, the rest prop. Yeah. Okay. In the same way, we're going to create the next slider controller dot track. Also equals to function that takes some props and return a GSS of the type track. Because I have a zero right here. Then we're going to pass in our props. Zero passes plus the rest. Over here, we're going to put our class name, which is equals to class names. Then we'll give this class name of track classes. And of course, the rest of our prop in here. All right. You can see that everything is following almost the same pattern. So for the range, we might as well just copy this. Just over here and changing it to range. The GSS range. Last name. All right. For the controller, this is where we're going to build our logic. All our logics will be built in here. So for now, this is all we need. We want to be able to showcase what we have so far in our browser. So we need a file whereby we can assemble all these controllers together. That file we're going to create over here and call it slider. Yes. Again, we use our short notation RAFCE. And we're going to import our slider. Import slider from our file called not slider, but slider controller. So import slider controller from slider controller. So here we're going to return our slider controller here. All right. So we're going to be having some prop in the main box up here. Also going to have that here. Mean equals to mean and max equals to max. Okay. And we're going to return the remaining. So we also need slider. I'm going to bring in a track. and then in the range, it's like we're assembling all the controllers that we created in the slider controller file of the range, and now we're going to bring in the input. So have slider controller. This is self-closing. So we're just going to have this variable back. Yes. Now we're going to have a type for this switch. Type equals to range, and then we'll give it a name property. Name is equals to the slider 1. Now we need another input just to make it 2 sliders that we're going to use to build our door handle slider, range slider. So this we're going to change the name to 2 here. All right, now we have all the controllers assembled over here. In order for us to display it in our browser, we need to come to our page file. Instead of us returning hello world here, we first have to import slider from slider, and then instead of returning hello world, just return slider. Bin, set our minimum from 0, have our maximum to be 100. All right. So if we run this code now, we're probably going to have an error. Now we're going to have an error. Oh yes. What is the error saying here? Type error. Create context only works in client components. Add the use client directive at the top of the file to use it. So what the error is saying is that Next.js 13 has both server and client component. If you do not use the keyword use client in any of the component, it automatically default to server component. And style component does not work in server component. It only works in client component. So we need to convert this component to client component in order for style component to work. That's why we're having this error. So over here, we're going to use the keyword use client. I will also do that in file as well. Error will go away. So now the error gonna go away, and we should be able to see our slider right there. So here goes our slider right here. Now what we're gonna do, the next challenge is for us to bring this slider to the middle of the browser and then put the slider together to form one single slider. So go to our styles to get that done. Also, we're gonna display this flex. I will give it a width of say 300 pieces. And the height of 100 pieces. All right, let's give it a border so we can see what we're doing. Border 1 pieces solid black. All right, now let's bring it to the middle by giving a margin of body view height auto to the middle, and then we're gonna make sure the content inside this box is at the center by using justify content center, and then align items center. I'm sorry, this video is not really about CSS, but just showing you how I put everything together here. All right, now what we need to do is put these two slider on top of each other. In order for us to do that, we can come to input and simply put position absolute. That's not going to work because we do not have here position relative. Okay, so now when we have this on top of each other, we need to span the whole width of this box here by giving 100%. All right, so that's span the whole width. Now we have the two sliders together. So the problem we now have is that we cannot access the bottom slider because every time we try to click on the slider to move the slider handle, the top slider is always taking the event and the bottom slider is not accessible. How do we get around that? Have to remove pointer event from the whole slider. So go by saying pointer event, I would say none. By doing so, we can no longer move the handles, but we're going to reactivate this pointer event only for the handles. So how do we do that? Over here, and we use a studio code. We use WebKit slider. We can say pointer event now. The auto. We do that now. Now we are able to access the handles again. But if you're using any other browser other than Chrome, this may not work because we are only targeting a specific browser here. So for instance, if we go to Firefox, we have the two slider, but we can't move any of the handles. So why is that? If we want that to work in Firefox, we need to target Firefox with this same code here. Coming over here, this. Instead of using the WebKit this, we just take this out and pause. Range. Okay, if we do that, now we are able to move and Firefox. All right. Again, if you also want this code to work for Microsoft Internet Explorer, you also have to target Internet Explorer with code here. And then to say MS. Boom. Now the code will work in Internet Explorer. I do not have Internet Explorer to show you, but now I'm targeting Internet Explorer. But one thing I don't like about this code is the fact that I'm repeating myself 3 times. So is there a way for me to refactor this code? Yes, there is. We need to import something called CSS over here, and then we can just create a reusable code up here. Because is style, this style is equals to CSS. I will simply copy this code here. Here. And then we use this variable here. All right, now we can use this variable simply by using a $sign. Now we can copy this file here. Copy, paste. So instead of me repeating myself 3 times, I just write the whole code in one location here, and it's affect these 3 browsers. So if you see now, my code still work as normal. I go to Chrome, you'll be able to understand. All right. So, but there's this something we need to do. I do not like the fact that this slider here is sitting on top of the next one. I want it to be on equal level. In order for me to do that, I need to remove appearance from my input. I say appearance and none. I'll check it with the appearance. But now we only see one handle. What happened to the other one? In order for us to see the other one, we also have to say background transparent. I bring it in. So now we can see both. All right. But I don't like this handle. I want to have my handle. I don't like the fact that this handle is just so small. I want to be able to customize mine. In order for me to do that, I need to come to this file here, or this variable here, the base style, and just say appearance. Done. And I need to do that with WebKit. Appearance. Done. I also do Moz. Appearance. Done. And more also I'll do for Microsoft MS. Appearance. Done. Just to target all the browsers. So now the handle is gone. You can't see it anymore. So for Firefox, it may not go away. It may still be there, but it's okay. That is not an error. Firefox. Firefox is still can see the handle, but that's fine. Yeah. Now we need to have our own custom handle. So give it a width of 1.7 am and a height of 1.7 em. Not 11, but 1. Of course, we're gonna give it a background. Say red. All right, that gives us a red handle. So if we need to make it round, we'll give it a border radius of 50%. I'll be round. So there you have it. We have the 2 handles right here. If you also look at Chrome, we have the same thing as well. And right here, which is right. But then we don't have our track. How do we get the track in here? So we go to our CSS where we have our track right here. Then we simply put position, absolute. I'll give it a width of 100%. Give it a height. I'll say 10 pixels. And then we'll give it a background color. That's a green. And then if we need the edges rounded, we just simply say for that. radius 5 pixels. So there you have it. Now we have the edges around there. So now we have the basic setup for our tool handle slider. I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to bring this video to an end for now, and then we're going to have a part 2 whereby I'm going to implement all the logics so that when we move the handle, we can actually change the values of the input, and then more so we can click on any area of this track, and then we can have the handle moved, and we can also have a different color between the two handles to show us the range. So thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in part 2. Bye.